Hi beautiful souls, welcome back to yet another episode of the Fallen Angels. In this episode, we are going to dig and try to understand who are the fallen angels, why they came down to earth, and what punishment awaits them. Fallen angels are initially divine messengers, who faithfully serves God in heaven. However, Lucifer or Satan, who was a high-ranking angel at the time, became unsatisfied with being a servant of God, and wanted to become God himself instead. Filled with envy and rage, Lucifer incited a rebellion against God, and successfully encouraged a third of the angels' population to join him in rebellion. However, God stopped the rebellion in time, and with the assistance of Archangel Michael, banished Lucifer and the third of the angels' population that rebelled against him away from his presence. They came to earth, hence the term fallen angels came to existence. So these fallen angels are angels who were expelled from heaven. The literal term, fallen angels, appears neither in the Bible nor in other Abrahamic scripts, but it's used to describe angels cast out of heaven or angels who sin. The idea of fallen angels derived from the Book of Enoch, a Jewish apocalyptic text, or the assumption that the sons of God, mentioned in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1-4, as angels. In the period immediately preceding the composition of the New Testament, some sects of Judaism, as well as many Christian fathers, identified these same sons of God as the fallen angels. These fallen angels, in the Book of Enoch, a manuscript which is believed to have been written around 300 to 200 BC, describes how these heavenly beings came down to earth and began to have children and multiplying with mortal women. The children sired were the biblical Nephilim or the giants, who were considered to be monstrous offsprings of the fallen angels. It's said that they became consumed with lust for earthly women, and entered into machinations against heaven in order to consummate their desires. They destroyed all gain of men, there was real hell on earth. And this angered God so much, that he sent Archangel Uriel to tell and warn Noah about the coming calamity, and what he must do as preparation. God sent deluge to purge the world of these creatures. It's said, their bodies were destroyed but their peculiar souls survived, roaming the earth as demons. In the 3rd centuries, Christian groups regarded the Book of Enoch as non-canonical, but they accepted it only as having some historical or theological interest. The Book of Jubilee, an apocryphal Jewish scroll, written during the Second Temple period, gives time frames for the events that led to the fall of man, stating that it occurred on the 17th day of the 2nd month, in the 8th year after Adam creation. This is supported by the Christian theology. Christian theology indicate the sin of the fallen angels occur in the beginning of human history or human creation. Therefore, the fallen angels became identified with those led by Lucifer in rebellion against God. What does the Quran say about the fallen angels? In Quran chapter 2, verses 102, mentions Harut and Marut as two angels purveying evil in Babylon. And the legend probably appeared to explain how and why they happened to be in that position. In Islamic mythology, these two angels, Harut and Marut, who unwittingly became masters of evil, after observing the sins being committed on earth by human, began to ridicule man's weakness. God declared that they would act no better under the same circumstances, and proposed that some angels be sent to earth to see how well they could resist idolatry, murder, fornication, and wine. No sooner did Harut and Marut, the chosen angels, alight on earth than they were seduced by the beautiful woman. They then discovered there was a witness who witnessed their adultery, so they killed him. Then the angels in heaven admit that God was indeed right, whereas for the fallen angels, they faced atonement for their sins both on earth and in hell thereafter. And on earth, they were condemned to hang upside down in a well in Babylon awaiting the day of judgment. Evidence for the belief in fallen angels among Muslims can be traced back to reports attributed from some of the companions of Muhammad, such as Ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Masud. At the same time, some Islamic scholars opposed the belief in the fallen angels, by stressing the piety of angels supported by verses of Quran, such as Quran chapter 16, verses 49, and Quran chapter 66, verses 6, although none of these verses declares angels as immune from sin. One of the first opponents of the concept of fallen angels was the early and influential Islamic ascetic, Hassan of Basra, 642 to 728. To support the doctrine of infallible angels, he pointed at verses which stressed the piety of angels, while simultaneously reinterpreting verses which imply acknowledgement of fallen angels. In Quran 89, verses 6 to 14, it mentioned giants, whose prophet Hud declares to be like Jabarim, Jabbar or mountain. It mentioned the people of Ad, who are believed to be giants, the offsprings of the fallen angels. Academic scholars have discussed whether or not the Quran jinn are identical to the biblical fallen angels. Although the different types of spirits are sometimes hard to distinguish, the jinn in Islamic traditions seem to differ in the major characteristics from the fallen angels, who are imprisoned under the earth until the day of the final judgment. The concept of the fallen angels derives mostly from works dated between 530 BC to 70 AD in the Second Temple period. In the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilee, and Qumran Book of Giants, and perhaps in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 to 4. It gives a reference to heavenly beings called the Watchers. These Watchers are the fallen angels that were expelled from heaven. Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 4, quotes, "When man began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters of man were born, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were very attractive, and they took them as their wives any that they chose. The Lord said, My spirit shall not abide in man forever, for he is flesh, his days shall be 120 years. And the Nephilim were on earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of man, and they bore children with them. These children were mighty men who were of old age, the men of renown." The fallen angels are named after entities from both Christian and pagan mythology, such as Moloch, Chemosh, Dagon, Belial, Beelzebub, Samyaza the leader of the Watchers, and Satan himself. Following the canonical Christian narrative, Satan convinced other angels to live free from the law of God. Thereupon, they are cast out of heaven. The fallen angels serve Satan as their new lord, and since their power to physically harm human has been limited by God, they took advantage over humanity's inherent sinful nature, and influenced them into doing their bidding, which is to spread evil and suffering amongst humanity, and this includes things such as lying, murder, rape, sorcery, sexual immorality, and moral decay. There can be no doubt that the judgment awaits the fallen angels. In Jude 1, verses 6, says, "And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling, these, he has kept them in the darkness, bound with everlasting chains awaiting judgment on the great day." This verse is also supported by 2 Peter. In 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 4, says, "For God did not spare angels when they sinned, but send them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment." These angels were guilty of having transgressed the limits of their nature, and desiring to leave their heavenly abode to experience sexual experiences. Their judgment awaits them in the final day, where they will be cast unto the everlasting fire. Thanks for watching. Peace, love, and light. And stay blessed.